Now here I have an old amplifier. This is a home built job. Quite an old one, I think sort of 70s. And it's actually got a couple of these Sinclair amplifier modules. Even Dick Smith used to sell these. They were like a pre-built module you just purchased. The preamp, I'm not sure, that looks a bit like it might have been out of an electronics magazine design or something. And you basically add your own power supply, add your own preamp and input signal, and various speaker terminals and stuff. They have like a kind of edge connector on them, but I don't think they were actually an edge connector as such. It was just a way to connect to it. These are Z30 modules by the look of it. Do not exceed 35 volts. So they did make various sorts of, I think some of the Sinclair ones came with like an early amplifier IC. Might have been one of those sort of like a 16 pin dip IC, standard sort of integrated circuit case, but with the middle pins were like all joined together, a sort of big metal tab on both sides. It acted as a heatsink and just sort of drew the heat down into like the copper pad underneath. So that was obviously a thing that Sinclair was into at one stage. It's got those old sort of funny round domed transistors. Looks like they're an MC something maybe. ITT electrolytics, so no doubt made in Europe. And we've got some later Rubicons here, and a bigger filter cap over here, Elna. I think they might have even been Australian made. Some Echo Japan, some Ducons, so they're probably more likely Australian made, and some oddball old diodes here, much like you see in valve equipment or early solid state in those metal cases. And there's a couple of these bolt-on ones, actually 4 of them. So the bridge rectifier is these old blue coloured things, and then we've got one more diode here, not sure what that's for. And there is a twin 3055, yep, on the back. KRC brand, don't know what that is, but it looks like we've got a line input, couple of speaker connections, I'm guessing they are, and there's also this cable coming off the volume control, just a mono one with a 5-pin DIN on it. So obviously connected into something. That could probably be chucked away, I reckon, if the rest of this is hooked up. Looks like they've even, like a commercial one, put a 110 volt American style socket on there, but they actually have 240 volts coming out normally, but it goes via, is there a switch on this? Oh yeah, we've got a switch pot. That's interesting. The volume control, if that is a volume control, it's only a single gang pot, so it's not stereo. The other ones are all stereo, so maybe that's the proper volume control there. Where would it go? Something has to come. Oh, they're joined together, so that's the earth. Got a couple of yellow wires, a couple of blues. Yeah, I don't know, that looks like obviously the shielded cable that goes up to each amp module. That'll be the power into them, I guess, and that would be our speaker outs. I think comes via these 2 Rubicons here into each terminal, which are, what are they, 4 5-pin DINs, left and right scratched into the thing there. Old school fuse holder here. Yeah, that goes to, God, they've used shielded cable for the mains wiring. And I don't think you're even allowed to use these fuse holders anymore for 240 volt, because basically that's the 240 volts attached to that bit there, which once you take this off, the power cord's going straight to that thing, so you can electrocute yourself on that. I guess we'll plug it in. It's got an old rubber coated power cord on it, but looks to be in good condition still, so I've just hooked another power cord up via a terminal block to it. I guess we might as well see if we've got voltage on that big cap there. See if we actually are powered up, and we don't. Well, that's not a good sign. If we've got the power switch on. Now, where's what? That's the transformer on one side. I can see a wire down. Surely that's not the primary. We've got something wire up there and put in tape. I guess I have to assume that's probably 240 volts. Is that the wire down there? That goes to ground by the look of it. Sure, they haven't hooked it up like that. What have they done here? We've got that wire comes up there, comes back to there, so that's your active. Your neutral wire goes, what on earth, to the socket on the back panel. And then it almost looks like it's meant to hook back up to this, is the other side of that. Yeah, then it goes to this terminal. Man, that's some dodgy stuff. I mean, it is only the neutral, I guess. That's the earth, so... And that's like the power, and it's almost touching on the earth one anyway. Not very well done. I wouldn't be mixing up my mains wiring with my low voltage, like, power supply to the amp modules like that, because that's definitely asking for trouble. I mean, it's got a nice earth wire in between, I guess, but still, that's looking very iffy. But I wonder if something's meant to connect via the speakers. They're not electrostatic speakers or something weird. I don't think they ran off the neutral voltage or anything. I've got a link between two of those pins. I've got the output from the caps, and another, yeah, like an earth wire on another pin. And then it looks like the neutral wire from the power cord would have to go through something external to get back to this other one and connect to the transformer, because the transformer doesn't look to be connected. Let's measure across the mains plug for any sort of continuity, but I don't think we're going to find any. Power's on. So yeah, this is quite a dodgy looking setup. Let's see, that's the neutral. And I'm guessing we're going to have, that should be the active. So I'm guessing we're going to have a resistance from there to there. Should be the primary of the transformer. What on earth else is hooked up here? I don't think it's connected to anything else. That wire's almost touching it on the earth. God, they just haven't done a very good job of this. I do not like the look of that. I'm not having any mains wiring on the speaker connectors. That's just plain dodgy way of doing it. I mean, it may be somewhat safe, but it goes against the normal principle of keeping all your 240 volt wiring well away from all the low voltage stuff. Look, that rubber cord might have been good on the other end, but it's starting to flake off at this end. So it might even be better removing this rubber cable altogether. When I grabbed it with the pliers, it fell off. But if I can at least just temporarily hook this up, might be best to cut that bit off. What's that catching on? It's catching on something. Get rid of that bit of rubber where it's broken. But it goes to show you never know what you're going to find in these homemade things. Now that goes to the socket there, it goes to this other socket, so I might cut that wire off too. And it goes to the transformer. Just make sure what we're... Well, I could just disconnect. Why don't I just disconnect that socket altogether? Well, it's still got active on the other side, I think, hasn't it? Because it's been used to join. And that, you've got to think of the potential too. If something got plugged into that, it could put a voltage back out that wire that I just disconnected and stuff anyway. But I think for now we're pretty right, because I'm not going to be plugging anything in there. So we have neutral, so we should now have a connection across this cord. should have a voltage on our capacitor. And we have 35 volts, which they say do not exceed 35 volts, so they're certainly pushing it to its limits, I guess. Okay, now we've got capacitor isolation here, so we don't have to worry too much about DC coming out of these amp modules. I guess we'll double check. We do have, looks like the DC should come into these red wires. Oh, 24 volts, what's going on here? Maybe there is further regulation, is there? Oh, of course, we've got that 2N3055 on the back, haven't we? 24 volts coming out. That must be what this other diode's got something to do with, is it? No. 24 volts one side, nothing the other. Even though it's a diode, I think they go forward. Maybe they go the opposite way. Maybe it's some sort of Zener to protect it if something bad happens. So those Ducon caps are on the other side of that. And I assume there should be a red wire somewhere from that. But I can't see one, or does it come out of the transistors? So, okay, yeah, so it comes off that other lead. But one of those should be the base. Or is that setting the voltage for, maybe that is a Zener diode, sets the base voltage, that's the emitter. Oh yeah, I think the base is the upper one on these. I don't know for sure, I'm getting some weird readings there with capacitors and stuff, but I guess that's the most likely the base. Ooh, that's measuring like a transistor junction too, but the wrong way around. It shouldn't be on, there must be another diode or something there, but anyway. We're probably going to measure a voltage on the output here because the capacitors haven't been discharged. So this thing may well work. The question is, what am I going to do to connect it to the speakers? And where's our ground? That would be this bit. It looks like everything is connected to that ground there. So I might even just solder my speaker test leads in there. That's right, they've currently got 2-pin DINs attached. Yeah, 5-pin DINs are rather odd to use for a speaker connector. 2-pin, fair enough, but 5-pin's getting a bit excessive. I have to tin them, I guess. But really doesn't have much value, this thing, but it's just an interesting old 70s DIY kind of kit. And it's kind of cool that it's something made by Sinclair, who did some very interesting stuff over the years. Shut that up, I should have turned that off originally. Where's my other lead gone? So I need to solder the ground wire down to that. It's just another wire from the same point. So solder both the grounds to the same point. Bit messy having to solder things, but I could have kind of shoved them in the DIN connectors, but it's just asking for trouble. Oh, we've got thumping sounds. So we've got to work an amplifier. Is that the only volume control? Ooh, yeah. Okay, that needs a clean. That pot is very poor condition. Still pretty poor condition. Unfortunately, a lot of these pots from this era are not the best quality. It's loose. I assume that's bass and treble, that's your volume, and this must be like a record output volume or something weird they've added in. But mono. Maybe it went to, who knows what it went to. Well, it's not as vicious as it was. Yeah, I can hear that. Do the treble up, so that's probably the bass. So yeah, definitely treble, bass and volume. And amazingly it still works fine. Wow, other than that pot. Which is pretty iffy. And doesn't seem to want to come good. It's better than it was, but yeah, there you go. So it's running off 24 volts. Sounds like a reasonably loud amp too, but I doubt it's, I think it'll be more about 5 watts. It's got Motorola output transistors, but I'm not sure. Oh, it's a BD135. Is the other one the same? I think that's a pair of BD135s. So we've got a brass block. Might be interesting to have a look at those little Sinclair modules out of interest. Gives a better look at it. So I've got the nice Sinclair badge on there. BD135, BD135. I think there might have been a data sheet somewhere for this too. I'll have to see if I can find it. I think it was this amp came with a bit of data on the Sinclair module. Quite a neat little thing really. And yeah, you've only got the earth, power. What's the other blue wire for? That's another earth, so it must be 2 earths. Maybe a power earth, a signal earth, a speaker output. Yes, it looks like 2 earths. Well, actually another earth for the... I connected together for the signal in. So signal in, power, signal in earth, power earth, and another connection for... That's a bit odd. What is the blue wire? The blue wire goes to the earth, the green wire goes to earth, so they've run 2 wires to the same point. But why has it got a separate looking earth? One must be a power earth, one a signal earth. Even the signal earth goes to a separate... Very weird. There's actually 3 completely separate tracks by the look of it. One goes around the outside. That goes to the power earth. The other green wire is the 3rd one up. Goes to 3 components here, 1 transistor and a couple of resistors. And then the signal earth on the input goes to another group of 3 parts. A capacitor, resistor, another capacitor. And then we've got our 24 volts or whatever it was coming up into one of the output transistors. The other output transistor here goes to this other power earth. Pretty much a standard setup there. The speaker output, where is that? Above that, should come from the middle somewhere, yeah. So it's joined to both transistors. Interesting. And I don't know if Sinclair included these brass blocks, probably not. But that was another little thing besides the full sort of Electronics Australia, Electronics Today International kind of kit that you build everything on the one circuit board or whatever from scratch. You also had these prefabricated amp modules. I think Sinclair also did preamps and stuff. I'll have to find one of the catalogues I got shows a few of their different things. I think Dick Smith sold some of them, maybe just the amp modules and maybe for 1 year only or something. And one of the other places like Radio Parts or something, I believe, had quite a few different things listed. Now says that. Don't know if we'll find out anything about this preamp by looking at it. Probably not. So this is a pretty random chassis it's built on too. Look at all these holes. Looks like it was almost, and of course other holes here. Wonder if someone's used it for a different kind of amplifier or something at some stage. Almost looks like the big can capacitors or something have been mounted there. And it's a very crude thing, obviously not something you wouldn't have on display anywhere. They haven't even cut the knobs off the, or cut the shafts off the pots and mounted the knobs down near the front panel as you'd normally do. So I think this thing would have been hidden away somewhere, maybe part of a PA system or that kind of thing. Anything on this circuit board? No, it's a very crudely, I think it's actually, is it actually a circuit board or is someone just, oh, there are some tracks on it. I think it almost looks like someone's just soldered wires to the back of it. Rather crude. This whole thing's rather crude, really. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's based on a design out of one of the electronics magazines or something. It does have copper, but by God, what the... They've actually... What have they done? I've got to see this now. So the red wire went to that red resistor, old IRC brand, odd looking resistor there. I assume it's a resistor, must be. And it's got 2150 ohms. So I've actually listed out the whole, I don't think I've ever seen those ones before. MDA 1%, so they're 1%ers. Pretty rare in those days. What's holding this together? Is it these wires? What have they done here? There's some, oh, it's the earth's connected to other stuff and it's these inputs. And someone's added extra resistors to the input by the look of it. It's certainly a crude old thing. It's not enough to, oh yeah, here we go. Oh my God, what have they done here? We've got someone's initials or something on it, I think. So they've put copper tracks here, but they haven't actually soldered. They haven't tinned it, which you didn't have to do. But they've drilled holes and then they've kind of run the leads on the back of it to join together. Like they haven't soldered around the pad there like you'd normally do. I wonder if that's someone's name on there. Bit hard to read, whatever that was. It didn't etch the best by the look of it, so it's some really crudely homemade circuit board. Probably someone's done it with the old Dalo pen and ferric chloride or whatever. Wow. And then they've just like soldered wire all along and tinned it with solder. Not much point even having a circuit board if you're going to do all that. A bit of a novelty amplifier thing, homemade one, and I'm always interested in seeing what people have built and what they're like, and I must admit I'm not real happy with the 240 volt wiring in this, or the odd speaker connectors and stuff, but there was probably a reason for it. I definitely don't like that. You should definitely keep your mains away. Should just go straight to the, maybe the fuse and the socket if you're going to have it, the power switch and the transformer primary, and that's it. It should be kept well away from everything else ideally, because this is probably back in the days when there's still valve equipment and stuff around, and that's kind of how they build it with these tag strips and stuff. So whoever built this is probably just used to the old way they used to manufacture things, to be fair to them. But it goes to show it's still working after all this time. Didn't have to recap it or anything, and it still runs. So there you go, and interesting to see a couple of Sinclair's old modules, which are probably well prior to his going into computers and other sort of more complete domestic electronic gear. But anyway, thanks for watching.